So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we are looking at Niyama number 2, Santosha. I love this Niyama. I would say that it was understanding this specific teaching that was really helpful for me to dive into the sutras and want a deeper understanding of yoga in a way that we truly can find a meaningful and happy life. That's what Patanjali says he can teach us. And so I started to listen because I had heard a quote by Alan Watts that spoke to, in the awakening of consciousness, when we have extreme highs, then we're definitely going to have extreme lows. For me, that hit with science in the fact that everything that we do has an equal and opposite reaction. And then quotes around life is like a roller coaster. So, and then just like having friends. I remember I was sitting with a friend of mine, Denise, and we were traveling Costa Rica together and we were sitting and having coffee. And she had said that. She said, remember that when you have a lot of emotion and things are way up here, that's the most amazing, beautiful time in that moment of your whole life. You love it so much. Yet, science strictly says that if you feel the highs this big, then there is an equal and opposite reaction. And it is as high as you got with your happiness, reverse it into as low as you will get with your sadness. And that started to sound like a roller coaster for me, kind of what I'd been living on. And Santosha speaks to not living on that roller coaster any longer, but more coming to like the middle way, right? In Buddhism, there's the middle path, and that's it. It's like you don't really deviate from it. Because if you don't have high highs, that means that you're not going to have low lows. And so when you can find a place in between of understanding that everything that happens is neither good nor bad, it just is, then you're more readily able to accept what's happening at any given moment. So I always think of the farmer's story. It's a Thatich Nan story. Yeah, Princey A or Princey, I think he did one that really caught my attention because it was cute with little barn characters. Basically, the farmer, right? His horse breaks free, and everybody comes over and says, "Oh my goodness, that's so bad. Your only horse is gone." And the farmer says, like, hmm, maybe. So then the next day the horse comes back, but the horse brings like 2, 3 wild horses with it. And so the whole town comes and goes, oh my gosh, now you have 3 horses. That's so good. And the farmer says, okay, maybe. So then the next day, the son's breaking in these 2 extra horses they have. And as he's trying to break them in, he breaks his leg. And the whole town goes, oh my gosh, it's so bad. Your only son, your farmhand, he broke his leg. And the farmer says, like, maybe. And then finally, the last part of the story, right? The army comes and they don't take his son because his son's leg is broken and he's not helpful for the war. And everyone comes over and says, oh my gosh, your son broke his leg. That's so good. So there's this like showing up into each situation with such extreme emotion, whatever it is, that how is it that we can handle it when it shifts from being good to bad or bad to good? Like it was so bad he broke his leg, but then it was so good that he broke his leg, right? Because then he didn't have to go to war. So it's finding that balance within ourselves, recognizing that the attachment and the aversion, 2 of the 5 kleshas, that we have to things that are going on in our lives are actually what cause suffering. We don't know. We don't know why things happen. And therefore, if we release our attachment or our aversion to what is going on, then we're able to just kind of like flow through life. Like maybe you're not happy, like our car got stolen not that long ago. So I'm not super happy about it, but like other than going to the police and putting in a report and sharing it, and I mean, what else can we do about it? There's not much. So it's a release of like, we don't know what else would have happened if we kept the car. Like, we don't know. So to spend a lot of time being stressed out, it's just kind of a waste of time because the stress isn't going to get us the car back. The stress isn't going to fix the problem. And so for me, this is my version of Santosha and learning to live with life. Let's look at what the sutras say. From contentment, one gains supreme happiness. And that's it, 242, 2.42. So from contentment is where we will be happy. Right? The idea is like overall, the good and the bad, if you relate that to an emotion, the good is happy, the bad is sad. The happiness is ever fleeting from you. Yet, if you aren't on the roller coaster, you will have stable emotions. And I think stability in emotion is actually like a very healthy way to live life. It's not ignoring the emotions and it's not having emotions, but it's not being so emotional in response to any events. Because how does it help? So Deborah Adele says that Santosha is really a way that we can meet each moment satisfied with the ability to see beauty and abundance. So I also think of gratefulness because gratefulness is a practice that is really helpful in general, period. Whatever is going on in your life, it allows you to actually look for the good in any situation. And I mean, I'm also attaching a label of good to that, but it's really about like seeing the abundance and the beauty in what's around you, even though things aren't panning out the way that you want them to, right? It's that wanting things to be a certain way that is essentially why we suffer. It's like I heard a really beautiful quote, and it was like, if you want to be happy, then when it rains, let it rain. Because how many times, and I do see this, how many times am I like, it's raining, like I can't do my laundry, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And then I'm not happy because it's raining, but there's nothing I can do about the rain. So when it rains, let it rain. The one of the concepts of keeping us out of a place of santosha that we experience on the regular is living in Western culture. We've always got this like place of like getting ready to live, right? When I blank, then I will blank. When ifs. And it's like they never really hit it. And even when they do, like when I have $1 million, then I will be happy. But then, like, if you've ever had $1 million, you'll notice that that wasn't the reason you were unhappy. Funny enough, in the idea of gratefulness practice, when we look at other people's lives, the way that social media can be really helpful in making things worse is that we look at what other people have and what we don't. Think about that. And that gratefulness is looking and finding the good in everything, and so, or the positive. And the roller coaster Western civilization really brings us to the place of complete opposite, not being grateful or having a grateful practice, but having a comparison practice and I'm a piece of shit practice. As long as we think that inner satisfaction comes from the external, we will never be happy. We will never be satisfied, and we will never be content. There's a concept called the pleasure principle, right? It was very helpful for when we didn't have language and we were cavemen, right? We learned that, oh, when it's really cold at night, fire is warm. But then we also so we learned, oh, that feels good. That's good for me. But then we learned if you step in the fire, that's pain and that's bad. And so we seek pleasure as almost like a human instinct, yet we're not cavemen anymore. We're living in a society in which you may feel pleasure from alcohol. You may feel pleasure from having random sex. You may feel pleasure from things that aren't actually beneficial for you, junk food, right? And then when you don't eat junk food, none of the other food tastes as good. When you are sober, that's not fun. It hurts. There's all the feelings, right? So we have, interestingly enough, manipulated the pleasure principle to be a way of actually gaslighting ourselves and causing more pain. Because what's the pain? The pain's sobering up, the pain's feeling. And so, yet the pain is what we need to do in order to actually feel better on the other side of things. It's our seeking and our avoiding, our gripping and our tensing that takes up all of our energy instead of releasing into the emotion, the situation, the sensation that we're trying to avoid. In AA, they talk about being self-righteous as well, coming from a place of, well, for a lot of people, being sober and then judging those that are still drinking and coming to a place of I'm better because I, no longer drink, or I no longer this. So this can also be a way that we build up resentment towards each other and still don't feel content within ourselves. So it's an important practice to release this energy that we're holding on to. And then we look back at some of the other limbs that we've been looking at, like being truthful. So that's what I've got for Santosha today. I think it's a really beautiful one to ponder, how can you find contentment in your life? Remembering we're moving, we've already moved through brahmacharya, so that's also moderation. It's not feeling emotions. It's being emotionally intelligent. So I want you to spend this week really noticing when you're wanting for more or anticipating something else, right? When you're looking for the next thing, I always think about, oh, I want to do this thing, I want to do this thing. And then when I'm doing the thing, I'm already thinking about how I want to do some other thing, or what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next. So this is about being present, really. And this is where I'm going to stop today. So thank you for joining me, and have a day.